Welcome to Recalculating Small Business.
Dan, our next guest is Chris Collins. He's CEO of RoboRecruiters, and he's here to talk about a new problem companies, including our small business audience leaders, will shortly face. Chris, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
First, tell us a little bit about what RoboRecruiter is and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. So RoboRecruiter, we're a startup with offices in San Francisco and London. What we focus on is the hiring process and really creating what we call the active candidate profile. And what we mean by that is that for a lot of people out there that do hiring for a living, either they're recruiters or organizations that hire a good number of people, is that they've often got great talent that they've spoken to in the past that are on their database, but they don't have the resources to be able to go out and reach them all. So what RoboRecruiter does with our technology is that we go out and activate their entire database of candidate profiles, and we keep those people active. Now, our technology does that via using chatbots and doing a lot of data cleansing for you as well. The result being that the next time you're looking to hire someone, we can cut the overall process down from sort of 20 days down to 1 to 2 days using our technology. To give you a little bit more about me, I'm Australian. You probably can pick up the accent, but I've been living in Silicon Valley for 14 years now and been doing a blend of HR tech, human resources technology companies, as well as spending some time working with virtual reality and building virtual reality software. So it's probably a pretty interesting blend, but really the consistency for me is applying technology to the worker and the workforce and how technology can really disrupt and make us more efficient in how we work.
Now, one question we have, it's ironic, we've had a number of guests on from New Zealand and Australia. I wonder how you guys all managed to make it to this side across such a distance. But anyway, tell us something is about to happen that the small business owners should. So when I read about it, I didn't quite understand it, so I'm going to depend on you to explain it to our audience and then turn it over to Dan.
Yeah, so I think the big thing that's happening, and it's happening in Europe and in the US, is really the question around candidate data ownership and privacy. In the EU in Europe, there's a law coming into place at the end of May, which is GDPR, and that's around where your profile, how your online persona is stored by other companies, and really handing over the ownership of that to the user, which is fantastic. On the US side, the US is going to be watching that law, and I think some of the stuff that we've been seeing with Facebook recently around how your data is being used is really going to accelerate this conversation on okay, well, who's storing my information and what are they doing with it? Where for us, for RoboRecruiter, it actually perfectly positions us, coming back to us working on activating the candidate profile and keeping that candidate profile active. To do that, we intelligently go out and communicate with that candidate. So really, it's switching the ownership of their record over to them, and then we're intelligently keeping that up to date. So it helps you be compliant with all the laws that are coming out, and it actually just creates an overall better experience.
Dan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dan.
One of the things that I want to follow up on this is we now have, in the case of the United States and indirectly the rest of the world, because these companies are based in the United States, whether it's Amazon or Google or Facebook or Twitter or whoever it is, the recent series of events that affected Facebook that caused their founder to find himself testifying before the House and the Senate, Mr. Zuckerberg somewhat was implying that his industry needs to be regulated like a utility. Now, he didn't say it in those specific words. In essence, he's concerned that a lot of the problems that have happened is because the way the internet has been characterized, at least in the United States, as the Wild West, where anything goes, that the dissemination of profile information on Facebook users or Google Chrome, whatever, that it's almost impossible to secure the confidential data. I mean, it's no longer considered confidential. And he was basically saying that again, these are my words, not his, they've tried everything possible that they can think of to protect against hacking in, but the hackers seem to be a little bit ahead of them. So when you're dealing in your part of the business, recruiting, and you need a lot of information about the profile of the person, where does your company come into this issue of internet privacy?
Yeah, so which is a really great question, and there's probably as an internet user, as we probably all are, the first question you need to ask yourself when you're on the internet is how am I paying for the current service that I'm using, and given that, am I the product or is the thing I'm buying the product? And I think in the case of things like Facebook or Google, when you're a user on there using it a lot, but yet it's free, then really you as the user become the product, and in being the product, that they're going to use your information and sell that information because they're looking to make money. The big difference with hiring, and LinkedIn's in a situation of hiring, and they kind of treat your data a little bit differently because they understand that they want to make money in different ways. When it comes to hiring, when you're asking yourself, well, where is this company going to be making money from these interactions? In our case, it's to the hiring managers or the recruiter. So our and our ability to be able to say we're keeping that profile active for you, and our way that we keep the profile active is talking to the candidate. So instead of in our case us working out where you're browsing the internet, which the other companies do, we're more asking for you, tell us the information that you want to share, tell us how often you want to share it, basically for the end result of you being able to get a job, rather than us advertising to you. One of the things that I always like to mention is that, if I'm in an audience in a room full of people, and I ask them to, a show of hands here who likes talking to recruiters, you'll get a very small number of people who like that experience. However, you then say, well, who here needs a job? You're going to get 99% of the room's going to put their hand up. That other one, I should say, who here likes to work? 99% put their hand up. That there's that special 1% that would all love to be in that situation, that they don't need to work. So for us, it's applying technology to that actual issue, and taking care of the profile of the person, specifically around work. So overall, as an industry, as a tech industry, I think it's what's happened recently is bringing to light what a lot of people in the technology field have always known, that a lot of these companies are tracking your data, and that's how they make money. And a lot of the data they're tracking you don't know about. And so for us, coming in with this active candidate profile and how we keep it active and that the candidate's keeping active is kind of, we see this as a huge opportunity for us because we think the conversation is changing in how it all works.
So I would be remiss if I didn't go back to ask you to clarify a point.
Yes.
While you didn't say it specifically, what you said somewhat implied that the Facebooks of the world, because they don't charge you for a service, have a lower responsibility of security protection?
I don't think it's so much of a law. It's definitely not a law of responsibility. I think if anything that they are collecting so much information about you that you probably don't even know that about yourself, that increases the want for hackers to be able to get inside of those organizations, and I think that it is. I think the responsibility actually needs to be shifted to the internet user, to us, to be able to make the assumption that any large tech organization is going to be hacked at some point, and the data would show that is the case. Pretty much every large tech organization out there has been hacked. We should assume that that's going to happen in the future, which therefore where the conversation needs to change is, well, how is there maybe a different way that users' information should be stored? Because with how it's stored right now, it means that if one of these organizations do get hacked, with how they track you, that people can get a lot of information.
So let me thank you for that. Let me move on, and let me use an example for a question.
Yeah.
The information, and this may be an oversimplification, but it's the way I look at it. The information that you collect is perhaps there's a better way to describe it, but in reality, what it is a data file. If I'm working with your organization, you have a data file on me for whatever it is you need to know. And Amazon has a file on me, and Google Plus has a file on me, and LinkedIn has a file, and AOL has a file. And so that if I wanted to learn more about me, if somebody wanted to attack my file, by hacking into various different files on different servers, I can gain a lot of information, although it's maybe I've entered illegally. I can gain a lot of information about me as a person, and I could then use that information to sell it on the black market or do whatever. Here's my concern, and this is something that just I've written about in some of my commentaries.
Yeah.
I just found out last week that the cloud storage service of Apple is not stored on Apple systems. It's stored on Amazon's systems.
Right.
So that if an individual can get into the Amazon system, who knows how many cloud servers are in fact Amazon servers? How many storage bases are actually one computer system that's Amazon? And so it would appear that we've concentrated even more the data into fewer and fewer places, which, as you just said, and I agree with you, it isn't a matter if you're going to be hacked, it's only a matter of when. Are we concentrating the data in too few places?
Yeah,
you're fading.
I think that's. Can you? If you guys can hear me, okay. I think that there's a couple of interesting things there, and part of it, I definitely agree with. I think that, especially in Silicon Valley, at most startups will use Amazon because it's a great way to get up and going fast, and Amazon provides a lot of economies of scale there. And I think that's an interesting point on with the Apple side of things. The other bit of technology that's getting a lot of press right now is blockchain and the distributed ledger, which is just another way of potentially how someone can take control of their own profile and how that profile is stored. And so that's where for us on sort of an active candidate profile, it comes down to us as citizens of the internet. Maybe should be thinking about this as, to your point, that it's not if, it's when a company's going to get hacked. So then putting it on our onus to say, well, hang on, why can't I own my own profile? and share my profile with these organizations when and how I want, and give them as much information as I want, and then be able to easily view what they have on me, and secondly, easily remove what they have on me. And I actually think that, especially in Europe, that conversation is very much at the forefront, and then it will come down to how US will take that kind of thing on. And that, with the challenge being, not having any economic impact in doing these kinds of things, which is the other. If you did that big Venn diagram, there's the points that you need to take into consideration that in doing any one of these moves.
We had a federal law passed a couple of years ago called the Do Not Call list.
Yep.
Where you could opt out of cold calling.
Yep.
But there are companies who have ignored the Do Not Call list and continue to harass the heck out of me, and I'm sure other people. And so I'm concerned about how whatever we try and do to protect our security, our individual security, I guess I'm pessimistic that we have a way to keep it secure for any length of time.
Yeah, and I think that the other interesting thing is, the big thing with what's happened with Facebook, again, it's the majority of a lot of us that have been working in tech for a very long time have sort of it was pretty obvious that that's how they work. I mean, that's how they make money. And the reality is, if anyone has been on the internet for any extended period of time, chances it's very easy to find a lot of their information online, and that information is not necessarily connected to a Facebook, to an Amazon, to a Google. It's on there through other ways, through voter records, through where you've bought a house, where you rent, all that kind of stuff is already out there. And that, again, for us, that's where we see a great opportunity for RoboRecruiter in that we are saying, hey, here is the information that we want to, where we want to interact with you to get you a job and to keep you employed. And that information needs to come from you, the candidate, and we're gonna reach back out to you for you to be able to say to us, is this information out of date? Do you want to update it? Yes or no, and they can update it. Or even, do you want to remove all your information from us? And they can say, yes, remove it all, and it all gets removed. So there's kind of, there's the overall, where we've kind of let the horse bolt out of the barn with all the information out there, and then, which is the internet right now. And then it's kind of, what we're trying to do is say, okay, well, at least let us try and focus on, okay, let's keep these things active and live, and put things into the hand of the user, the candidate, in what they do with their information, at least when they interact with us.
So, Chris, I want to ask you one more question, and then we'll give it back to Don. Your business is an internet-based business. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And so, if the internet wasn't there, your business wouldn't have been started. Is that a likeliest scenario?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So if this legislation that you're talking about that's getting ready to go into effect, I think you said the end of May in Europe, is that going to impact your ability to do business?
No. We've if anything, it's one of the exciting opportunities that we see because of the fact that the big thing that the European legislation has is that it's all about the user having ownership of their data and their ability to be able to remove that ownership of their data to whoever's got that information, one. And the second piece, which is kind of interesting to around what we've been talking about, and I think the US is watching it heavily, is that a company needs to let you know if they're storing your information and what information they're storing on you. So for us, with our solution saying, one, you own your data, and we can tell you what we've got of your data. And the second piece being, hey, our big selling point is that we keep this data active rather than, you interact with us once and we've got your data for the rest, for 10 years in advance. Us saying, hey, we need to keep interacting with you to keep you active. Well, we're kind of perfectly positioned for what's happening here. And if anything, I'm really excited that it's become more of a mainstream conversation.
So I'm sorry, Don, I just thought of another follow-up question, and I promise you can have it back.
No problem, Dan. You're doing a great job.
I wonder, Chris, let me ask you this question. If there was legislation in the United States where the government could prove that your data was hacked off of Facebook or Google or whatever, if the customer's file was hacked, there would be a financial penalty against the company that had the data. So the company would be fined for every name. And just think about when we've heard these stories about hundreds of millions of files being hacked. If there was a financial penalty for allowing hacking to take place, would it change the security mode of many companies?
So this is just companies in general. I don't think it would. And if anything, I think it could unfortunately slow down innovation because you wouldn't get a lot of companies would be in a situation where a lot of people, I would say, would be in a situation where they may not want to undertake any kind of tech venture that if economic activity is any sort of indicator of the future, you could significantly see a decrease in technology innovation.
Thank you. Don, back to you.
I want to go back to a question. I read someplace that the regulations in Europe will say that if I contact you without your prior approval, you're subject up to $1,500 fines or some such. Is it really as draconian as that?
Yeah, well, it's actually even bigger than that, where it's also a percentage of your revenue, which for large organizations, especially large internet organizations, that's significant, what they're putting out on there. So it's a very strict, it's a very strict law, and I think we're going to find out more about it over the coming year once it goes into effect, and then what actually happens around it. But it's a very strict law about how people can communicate with you and how people can use the information that they're stored on you, potentially without your knowledge. It's very strict.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating world. Let's go talk a little bit more about your company, which is why you're here and why we want to know a little bit more. How does your company help a small business?
Sure. So what we do is that we are so in two ways. So if you're a small business that does recruitment or staffing, our technology kind of operates as that as in the staffing industry like a resourcer. So someone that's going out there talking to potential candidates that could be interested in a role, and vetting them for that role, and getting all that ready for you to be able to call them up and talk to them and find the best person for your client. So our technology works alongside you as a small business. The other piece to that is if you're looking to hire people, us being able to, if you're looking to hire people, probably right now you probably go out onto LinkedIn or you go out onto Indeed and you do a search across all those people, and then you try and reach out to them, and some of these people are already employed, some of these people aren't checking their information, a whole bunch of other things. So it slows down the hiring process. In our case, you're looking to hire someone, you can come to us, and we will be able to present to you these active candidate profiles, so that the people that we're actively engaged with. Therefore, when you do a search on who is available right now that I could potentially hire, we're showing that information back to you, which for a small business, it allows you to move a lot faster in finding the best people.
So, but it's dependent on people entering information on some database, your database or another database. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, that's right. So to kind of walk you through the workflow of how it works. So let's take the contract market is a good example. So you're either an IT professional or you're a forklift driver. So you're a forklift driver. Let's say you work on contract. You put on different jobs based on warehouses needing more people. How our technology works is via chatbot. So when you go onto site for the first time, it reaches out to you and says, hey Don, you've just started with ABC Warehousing as a forklift driver, and we know that it's a 3-month. Is that correct? And you can write back to it on your phone and you say yes. And so what happens right now, if you don't use RoboRecruiter, is that because there's so much stuff going on, in 3 months' time, chances are that we forgot that you're rolling off your project. And you probably have to start going back out to the market yourself to look for that next job. Well, with RoboRecruiter, it knows, because you engaged with us, that you're going to be finishing up that job in 3 months. And so 2.5 months, 2 weeks before you finish, we reach out to you. It reaches out and says, hey, Don, we understand you're finishing in 2 weeks. Is that still the case? And then and says to you yes or no, and you reply back yes, and then immediately it's activated your profile, and it can start going out and trying to find you your new job, or the company that's already employed you knows, oh, if we've got another warehouse nearby, we can move Don down to that location. So that's how it works. Just trying to keep you employed and show the hiring manager of who are the people that are going to be active.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question and turn it over to Dan for one more, but it's dependent on the individual putting in the right words to match your search. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, either the right words or we present them with options. So a box that says yes or no, and you just tap yes or you tap no. But definitely, you as the worker are in control of that profile and in control of what goes into it.
Okay, Dan. One more final question before we let Chris go. He's been a really fascinating guest.
Thank you, Chris. I want to change just a little bit, and I want to talk about. We have almost 4% unemployment in the United States. Some areas of the country are higher, some are lower. But there seems to be, in many areas, shortages of jobs, both skilled labor and unskilled labor, office jobs, everything else. So as this economy continues to grow, and now some economists are forecasting that GDP by the end of the fourth quarter of this year could approach 4%, and that unemployment could be well below 4%. We have a shortage of people. So what's happening in robo-recruiting, are jobs, people to fill jobs, getting harder and harder to find?
I definitely think, definitely. Couldn't agree with you more. I think that there is a definite increased shortage of people. I think that the fact that technology is allowing us for remote workers, allowing it to make it much easier for people to be able to work remote, means that large organizations, even small organizations actually, can hire from any place. So it's a lot easier to fill that position, which then puts pressure on being able to get more people. It's very easy to get more people. I definitely think that that's happening. The piece that, again, coming back to the active candidate, which becomes interesting, is that it also allows you to do better forecasting for predictive demand, if that makes sense. So at the moment, looking at the overall U.S. economy is sort of from a macro perspective, there's a bunch of different data points that economists have to use to forecast where things are going. Where just imagine, and obviously us as a startup, I say we're going to do it, is that imagine if everyone in the U.S. had an active candidate profile. In other words, you knew that the system was going out, keeping people up to date, keeping them active. You'd be able to do much better forecasting on where bottlenecks could be coming up in the future, and be able to do something about it. There's a number of economic moves that you can do to help out with that. But better upfront information, real-time information of where things could go. That's where, again, we really help out. And we do that. We do this already at the organizational level. Large companies being able to assess. Okay, well, 6 months out, we're looking at our active data right now. We're going to hit a wall in 6 months out. If these big projects come through, let's start skilling people up that they're able to do that. And I think those techniques need to be applied at more of a macroeconomic level.
Chris, one thing we had a gentleman on several weeks ago, and we were talking about the untapped resources with the shortage of people. It used to be in our country, I don't know about Europe, but in the United States, you retired at 65. And for various reasons, a lot of people who retired at 65 weren't really done. As somebody looking for personnel in an increasingly short market, are you doing anything to go out and look at the retireds to see if they're interested of coming back into the workforce? Yeah,
a spectacular point that you're making there on that kind of a workforce. We have not right now. This is a small company. It's on our list of things, but we haven't right now. The other point to that, where I actually thought that in addition to the retired community, is also the parent that's head of household. That's at home looking after the kids. Being able to tap into that resource when they've got some availability is something that's interesting to us as well. If you think of their active profile, they know the kids are going on camp in a few weeks, to be able to say, hey, actually, I'm going to have 2 weeks, 3 weeks available. And I used to be a corporate lawyer, and I could do 3 weeks worth of work, is another place similar to the retirees to be able to say, okay, if you can give us 3 weeks worth of work, then let's find someone that needs that resource is another location as well. It's a spectacular point.
Good. Don, back to you.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We've been talking with Chris Collins. He's CEO of RoboRecruiter. Chris, your website again for people?
Yeah, so that's RoboRecruiter, or one word, roborecruiter.ai is our website. And we've got a lot of information on there if you want to check it out.
Thank you so much. We've been talking with Chris Collins. He's CEO of RoboRecruiter. You can hear this program and every other show on recalculating.biz.
Want to know more about health savings accounts for your company or yourself? For a free employer guide to HSAs, go to 2hsa.com. That's 2hsa.com.
Dan Perkins here from recalculating.biz. I want to tell you about Bob Bethel. Bob's new book is Strengthen Your Business, Fail-Proof Strategies for Small Business. His suggestions are easy to understand and very helpful. Bob Bethel's book, Strengthen Your Business, can be found at Amazon.com or can be ordered at your local bookstore. Dan Perkins with your featured book.
Welcome back to Recalculating, the program dedicated to American small business. Now it's time to bring together our two experts, Dan Perkins and Don Mazzella, as they discuss things that are happening now that are affecting your business success.
Dan, we're both book authors and know how hard it is for writers to generate book sales. Becky Robinson offers a unique approach to generating interest in books. Becky, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, Becky, tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then about what I think is one of the most unique ways of generating book interest.
Sure, thank you. So I've been working with authors to launch books since I founded my company in 2012. And one of the things I've seen is that it's really difficult for authors to get traction. So I had this idea to start a book marketing or book promotion platform called Hometown Reads. And we've been working on building Hometown Reads since 2016. And we're now in about 106 U.S. locations, representing authors in at least 41 states.
Wow. When we first met a couple of years ago, you were only in 4 or 5, if I recall correctly. Now you're in how many?
I think about 106 locations.
Wow. So, first, tell us some of the locations you're in. We won't ask for a complete list, but do you do small towns, big towns? How do you decide these various locations?
Sure. Well, we have a mixture of both, large metropolitan areas like New York City or Los Angeles, and some small towns like Brighton, Michigan, or Spokane, Washington, represented on the site. And there are a mixture of ways that we've grown to various locations. So in some cases, we've had authors contact us wanting to be showcased on the site. That happened in a small place in New Mexico, Corrales, New Mexico, and the authors saw that we had Albuquerque, New Mexico on the site, and they really wanted their own hometown to be represented, so we worked with them. In other cases, we've chosen a metropolitan area and gone out doing outreach to try to find authors in those locations. So there's a wide range. And in the cases where a hometown has fewer than 50,000 residents, we're making those pages live with fewer authors. But in the larger locations, we look to have about 10 authors in each location before we put them on the homepage.
And you're in New York City.
We are in a few boroughs of New York City. I'm trying to remember which ones. I believe maybe Brooklyn. We decided that New York, I know we're definitely also in Long Island. We decided New York City as a whole was too large, and so we did try to break it down into the boroughs, and, slowly we've been connecting with authors there.
Well, that's exciting. I know Dan's going to ask the first question. Dan, it's all yours, and we'll go. It's all yours.
So my question is, let's help writers understand what it is you do for them in a little more detail. So
sure,
we've got an author who's got a book. It's available on Amazon, and he's, I think the thing I've read recently is that first-time author sells about 100 book copies of his book the first year. So what does the author get from you that makes him or allows him or her to sell more books?
That's a great question. Well, so one of the things that we're providing is a free platform where an author can be showcased. And this is valuable because if you go on Amazon to look for books, obviously there are over 12 million books on Amazon. What we're attempting to do is to get the author in touch with the most logical people who would be interested and curious about their book. So typically authors, you might write a book, and even those people, your closest neighbors and people who live in your own hometown, might not know about it. So we're giving authors tips and tools to help them connect with local readers, and then we're also showcasing them for free on our website so that readers in their area who might come and see their book on our site will realize, the breadth of the books that are available from authors in their hometowns. The second thing that we're doing is we're connecting authors and community with one another. So quite often what happens with a first-time author is that they really lack the resources and know-how to market their books. But those other authors in their area may have tips and tools that they can provide, and really just being connected with a community of authors is often a way to cut beyond the confusion and discouragement that comes. So at Hometown Reads, we're attempting to build collaborative communities of people, authors in each location who can support each other and contribute to one another's marketing efforts.
So let's just stop for a second and let people know what your website is. The name, please.
Sure. hometownreads.com.
hometownreads.com. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And so is it a regional platform that you're doing all across the country by region, or is there also a national platform?
Sure. Well, the website is a national platform, and it's divided into the specific hometowns. We're in the process over the next few months of updating our homepage to make it easier for people to find locations. Right now, our 106 locations are represented, each with their names and a skyline image on the homepage. So it's not really divided into regions yet. It's just divided into the individual hometowns. And as I mentioned earlier, we're currently representing authors in 41 of the 50 states, still looking to find authors in those last remaining 9 states.
Okay, so if Don and I are both authors, I'll play guinea pig. I live
Sure.
on an island out in the Gulf of Mexico. This is true. I live on an island in the Gulf of Mexico, which has a population out of tourist season of about 6,000 people. It has, I think, one bookstore, but the big supermarket does sell has a lot of books available for sale. The closest city would be Fort Myers. How would somebody like me, who is a writer, a local writer, how would I or can I benefit from your service in Southwest Florida?
Sure. So at the current time, I'm not sure that we're in Fort Myers, but we typically will advise authors who are part of a much smaller location to associate with a larger location. Now, if you knew that there was a group of authors on your island, and if you had others who were interested in being showcased, you could contact our team, and the best email address is ideas@hometownreads.com. Let us know that there are a group of authors in your area who are interested in being represented. And then when we do our new kind of homepage redesign, at that point we want to organize our locations regionally. So at that point, you could be under Fort Myers, under your individual island, and then under the state of Florida, so that people interested in hearing about books from authors in Florida would be able to find you in a few different ways. Also, depending on what genre you've been writing in, your book would show up on our site by genre. So anyone searching for mysteries, for example, would be able to find your book.
So in the case of where we don't have something you don't have something in Fort Myers, and I could get myself in real serious trouble here. We have probably, I'm not going to give you a number, a substantial number of writers on the island, many of them who are, for lack of a better description, snooty, that don't really care about selling books. They care more about the writing process they're purists, as I guess some people would call. So if somebody's interested, so right now, I wouldn't really have an option, or would I have an option with your site? Not in.
Well, sure. Again, if you wanted to have your own island represented, the idea would be to contact us via email. Currently, when authors come to the form, they go to hometownreads.com/join. And if you don't see your location, you can list other. When we start to notice books being submitted from a similar location, then we'll add that location to our form. So we'll either add it because we see some, or we'll add it because you email us. Either way, when we get a critical number, and in an island with a population of 6,000, it might only be 5 authors. When we have 5 authors who are represented, we'll go ahead and make your page live on the site. Now, the other value of Hometown Reads is it's really helping an author who wants to sell more books, giving them kind of one more promotional tool. So we have some free emails that go out to you, encouraging you to share your page via social media. And what our hope is that as individual authors become more adept at sharing their books through social media channels, they'll attract others who enjoy the books who will also share. And in that way, we fulfill our mission to help authors reach readers not only in their hometowns but around the world.
So how do you make any money?
So Hometown Reads isn't currently making any money. I own a different digital marketing agency, and we've been funding Hometown Reads through profit from the core business while we figure out in what way we might be able to make money, from this community that we're building. But it's free to be on the site. Authors can list their books. And one of the ways that we're making it feasible is that we're involving volunteers. Many of the authors who are represented on the site contribute to the work of the platform.
Okay. What have people who've been with you for a while, authors, have they seen any measurable increase in their book sales?
That's an excellent question, and we don't have a lot of data about that. What we have heard is that authors are feeling more equipped to be able to go to their local libraries and bookstores and get shelf space because they are able to share this message of Hometown Reads and Read Local. And so the resources that we're providing are really helping authors as it relates to figuring out, how to more effectively network in their own locations. We're getting a lot of kind of subjective feedback that, authors are really enjoying the chance to connect with other authors in their areas and, really enjoying a place where their book can stand out. As I mentioned earlier, 12 million books on Amazon. It's really easy for independent authors to be lost there. But if, in a small town like Brighton, Michigan, if you're one of the 6 or 7 authors that we're showcasing, obviously it's going to be much easier for your local readers to find you.
Yeah. So somebody like Don who lives in New Jersey, North Jersey, he'd have a much larger potential audience of on your site and authors than because of the dense population versus somebody like me who lives on an island.
Well, yes, and as time goes on, there are hundreds of small towns in America. What is so important to me is that each location is really defined by the people who live there. So, I live in Lambertville, Michigan. We're a suburb of Toledo, Ohio. Well, Lambertville, Michigan is, small town. It obviously has a certain vibe to it. But those people who are writing and publishing in our area contribute to the overall culture of our area. They help tell a story about what's special about us. And Hometown Reads really gives us a chance to celebrate the uniqueness of each hometown. And what's really unique is the people who are contributing to the culture of that area.
Good. Terrific. Don, back to you.
Betsy, how do you make your money?
As I mentioned, I own a digital marketing agency, and so I'm supporting the work on Hometown Reads through my core company. We serve mainly business book authors in marketing and publicity.
I went onto your site. I just find it absolutely fascinating. Do you have? I looked at New York, but I didn't look at New Jersey. But an author like myself or Dan, could we just go to you and get put on, or do you have a criteria for deciding who comes on?
Sure. Any author is welcome to submit their books. You can go to hometownreads.com/join and submit your information. At the current time, we have the ability to have each author add up to 10 books on our site. And so if you have more than that, down the road, we might open up for more. Then once you submit your book, our internal team, which consists of author volunteers, will review your submission for appropriateness and then publish your book on the site. It usually takes about 24 to 36 hours.
Wow,
sometimes longer, depending on the availability of our volunteers.
No, what you're doing is really exciting. I also belong to the Italian American Writers Association. Have you thought about offering associations the spot on your site, or are you just concentrating on the hometown?
Well, we do have the ability for organizations like the one you mentioned to sign up on the site as what we call Read Local Champions. And if you go to our join page, you'll also see that possibility for organizations to sign up. And then we feature the organization's logo. And down the road, one of the ways that we imagine funding the site is through collaborative sponsorships. And so an organization like the association that you're mentioning would be a perfect sponsor for Hometown Reads. Really anyone who believes in literacy, who wants to support the arts, this is a great platform for being able to support people.
Well, it's just fascinating. So you in effect subsidize this from your other business, which tell us about your other business, what you do there.
Okay, sure. My other business is called Weaving Influence, and we work with authors to market their books, mainly business book authors. We provide services like web design and development, social media strategy and implementation, public relations outreach, anything related to marketing. We support our authors through that. We also have a book marketing course that's available for authors, and you can find that at weavinginfluencelab.com. So basically what we've done is we've captured all of our learning about the work to market books in a video, and there's video resources and written resources within the course, and that's for sale, as I mentioned, at weavinginfluencelab.com. And so, most of what I do in my life, making money and not making money, is looking for ways to support authors to be more effective in reaching readers. WEAVING Influence, INFLUENCE, weavinginfluence.com, or weavinginfluencelab.com.
Well,
or you can Google my name, Becky Robinson, and my company website comes up on the first page of Google.
Oh, that's good to know. For people thinking of creating a book, what are one or two things you first ask them about their book?
Sure. Well, actually, what I try to encourage people before they write a book is to consider why they're writing a book. What do they hope to achieve? Some people want to write a book just for the experience of writing. Other people want to write a book because they have specific business goals that they want to meet. So I encourage authors to get clear about why they're writing a book before they write it, because there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of time, money, energy, and it's really helpful to have a bigger picture view of what you're investing in.
I have a lot of questions. Well, back to you, Dan.
Thank you. Becky, when you're looking at ways in which you can create this service that will not drain your reserves from the other businesses that you're in, I'm wondering if you've considered the possibility, the road traveled to find a major publisher to publish an author's book is littered with bodies of abandoned authors who have walked away from the process because they've been rejected a zillion times. And so the opportunity to get published through a self-publishing opportunity is the way many authors may get started, or maybe the only way to get started if they want to see their books in print. So have you considered the possibility, since you were just talking with Don about helping people who might want to write a book, have you considered the possibility of any kind of partnership with providing self-publishing services that authors can get their books published?
Sure. Well, our team does provide some support to people who are doing the process of self-publishing. So we mentioned my core business, Weaving Influence. We do have book production services available. One of the things I've noticed, Dan, is that there are a lot of small press and independent publishers out there. And quite often the trade-off that a person who wants to self-publish needs to make to be published by an independent publisher, in my opinion, a lot of times the rewards aren't there in terms of the level of service that's delivered or authors getting what they expect. So in many cases, as far as like a cost-effective route to publishing, an author might do better to kind of cobble together their own resources rather than hiring out to a self publishing, like independent publisher. And so for that reason, we do provide some graphic design and book production support through my core company. You know, I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I'm juggling all these multiple businesses with, you know, my family life. So I'm not really ready to take a deep dive into another huge area of service yet, but it certainly is something that we've considered along the way.
Have you run across any authors who have used Amazon's CreateSpace for publishing?
Yes, in fact, we as a company recommend Amazon CreateSpace. If we support an author in book production, typically what we'll do is walk them through the process and partner with them to get their book published on CreateSpace. One of the drawbacks at the current time is that CreateSpace used to have an option to convert to Kindle at a very low price, and recently that option has been eliminated, and so it's been more challenging for authors to figure out the production of files that are ready for publication on Kindle, but we do, you know, work with authors to connect them with service providers who can create those files for them.
Yeah,
but I recommend CreateSpace.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I interrupted you. What was the last thing you said?
Oh, I do recommend CreateSpace.
Yeah, the interesting observation is that everything that I can find is that almost 50% of book sales are ebooks, and you're saying that CreateSpace got out of the ebook business?
They're not out of the ebook business. To have a really seamless way for authors to convert their print-ready files to Kindle-ready files, which isn't currently available. So they are, you know, making recommendations of ways that authors can get those files ready.
Okay, so they're still making ebooks available. It's just that they're no longer produced.
Correct. It's a conversion. I
Are
think
there
we
any
be able
other
to buy a Kindle conversion for $99 or $129. Okay. We can't do that anymore.
Are there any other organizations like CreateSpace that you think are reputable self-publishers that our audience would be interested in?
That is a really difficult question. I primarily recommend CreateSpace. You know, I feel like authors are always underprepared for the level of investment that's required to bring a book to market. And even if they are prepared for the production costs, you know, design, et cetera, they're not prepared for the marketing costs. And quite often what I'll see is people err on the side they spend more money on production than it's time to do marketing, and there isn't any marketing energy or budget left. Mm-hmm. What I like to encourage authors to do is to think about marketing long before they even write the book. Every author really needs to be thinking about how they can build connections and a platform so that by the time the book is published, they have a ready audience, so that they can overcome that statistic of, you know, first-time authors only selling 100 books in the first year.
All right.
Really, the only way to overcome that is to be proactively prepared and have a consistent, focused approach to marketing over time, where you keep your book out in conversations, where you're connecting with relevant audiences, and of course, you know, you have to have a good book. So all of that has to go together.
Are there, of the 12 million books that are on Amazon, how many do you think are one-time wonders?
Oh, well, not very many. You know, I think that, you know, authors have this dream. You know, every author dreams of being J.K. Rowling, if they're a fiction author, you know, thinking that they can somehow rise above and have this miraculous success. And that happens so seldom. I think it's only about 1% of all books that's really able to break through to that miraculous level of sales. So don't quit your day job.
Good
advice. Don, back to you.
Becky, I wish we could talk longer, but we can't. Your website again, your 2 websites again, and how people can reach you?
Sure. The website for authors to be showcased in their hometowns is hometownreads.com. And my core business is weavinginfluence.com. My name is Becky Robinson. If you Google me, you should find Weaving Influence fairly easily. Or if you're interested in our course, which is to help authors who want to do marketing themselves, we provide tips and tools and strategies. It's weavinginfluencelab.com. Questions about Hometown Reads and new locations can be directed to ideas@hometownreads.com.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We've learned a lot.
Thank you for joining us on Recalculating. We hope the information you received on today's episode was helpful to you in starting and growing your business. Please go to our website, recalculating.biz, to contact us, to listen to past shows, and see special offers. Until next time, remember, if you grow, we grow. Join us next week for more helpful ideas to make your business a great success. Recalculating, a program designed to help you be successful.